Hey everybody, today I'm going to create an HDR photograph, also known as high dynamic range. This type of photography method is great when you're dealing with high contrast scenes like the one you see here. This is a sunrise at a beach, and if I properly expose for the sky, my foreground looks too dark. So to get a better balanced image, I took 5 bracketed exposures from dark to light that I'm going to blend together so I have a colorful sky and a properly exposed foreground. Now, to be honest, I find myself not shooting HDR photos as often because today's DSLRs have such great dynamic range that all I need to do is lower the highlights and raise the shadows. So what happens if we do that here with this photo? So I'm going to bring this down and let's pump up the shadows, and that looks pretty balanced, still a little underexposed. But if we zoom in, you can see there's quite a bit of noise in the shadow areas. It's not terrible, but I think if we take the bracketed exposures and merge them all together, I should get a cleaner image and a little more well balanced sky and a well balanced foreground. So let's use Lightroom's built-in HDR option and see what we get. And if you have Photomatix or Aurora Pro HDR, you could use those programs as well. I honestly have come to appreciate the natural HDR look that Lightroom provides versus those programs though. And I don't know, Lightroom just seems to just blend it a lot nicer, and it's less destructive to the image. So it might look very natural, and let's say you're going for that cartoon or that ultra saturated look that HDR is associated with, you could do that, but at least you're starting off with this nice natural image, and then you can make a copy of it and then destroy the heck out of it if you want. But you always have that you always have that original that's nice and natural to work from. So that's why I really love Lightroom's built-in HDR software. So let's select all our images, go to Photo Merge, HDR. Now I shot this on a tripod, so I'm not going to check off auto align. You want to check off auto tone, and I had a bunch of movement in that dune grass, so I'm going to leave this on high for deghost. If you want to know what the software is deghosting in your picture, just check this button right here, and that will give you the visual of what exactly the deghost is doing. Alright, now we got our merged blended exposures. Just hit the merge button right here. So there's our new HDR photo. Let's click on that. And this is what I really love about Lightroom and their HDR software, because we can really fine tune this picture right now. It's a little bright for my liking, so we could bring the exposure down a little bit. I don't want to go too low because I want this foreground to be lit up decently, so I'm going to stop right there, but the sky is still a little bright. So what we're going to do is take a gradient filter, and we're going to just darken this up a hair. I'm also going to warm the picture up a little bit. And when we do this, you notice the blue in the sky, it loses that blue color. So if you want, you could go back to that gradient we created and you could make that temperature a little cooler. That way we keep that nice blue in our sky. Awesome. Next, we can increase the sharpening a little bit. Let me just zoom in here. 3:1. Now, as you can see, it's not nearly as grainy as the first picture I showed you. And the shadows just look a lot nicer. Let's increase the contrast. Remove chromatic aberrations. You do that if you want to get rid of the vignetting. To be honest, I like the vignetting, so I might bring it back in there. And then what I would like to do is just clean up the image by getting rid of some of these dust spots that were either on the lens or on the sensor. I'm not going to do all of them just to kind of save some time with this video, but you get the general idea of the workflow here. And if you really want to get that surreal look, you could start playing around with clarity and really bump up your vibrancy and your saturation. Although over the years, I've come to just really love the more natural looking image. To me, HDR has gotten a little out of control as far as that like super saturated, super cartoon look. And it has its place with certain images, but if you're doing, let's say, landscape photography, you kind of want to keep it as natural as possible. So the clarity is fun to play around with, and instead of applying it to the whole image, I think I'm just going to put the clarity right along the footsteps in the sand, and it kind of increases the contrast a little bit. See if we bump it all the way up. I'll just go right around here. This is all personal preference, just kind of showing you what I might do to this image. Okay guys, let's take this photo one step further. We have a lot of dead space in the sky, so let's just add some birds in there, some seagulls. There's a bunch of them flying that day, and I didn't capture them on the bracketed exposure, but I did take some pictures of seagulls on a different day, and I turned it into a brush for Photoshop. So let's open up in Photoshop. And I think what I'm going to do next week is show you exactly how I created those brushes. They're very handy and could take your photography to the next level as far as adding more elements into a picture. They're very simple to make, so I'll do a tutorial on that next week. So here we are in Photoshop. Let's make a copy of the image, and let's make a new layer as well. And go to our brushes. Now here's my bird brushes. I'm just going to pick one for this tutorial, and then let me just resize this down to about 400. That's pretty good. It'll go a little bigger. I want them small enough that they look like they're by the water, flying over the water. So let's go with that, and we'll put some right there. They're not meant to make some bold statement to your image. It's just kind of an added element, like I was saying before. And there was a bunch of them flying over the water. I want like 2 more. So what I'm going to do is put this right here, and then take switch brushes, and oops. Alright, we don't want them to look like a pattern, so let's paint away some of these birds. So what I'm going to do is create a mask, make sure black is selected, and let's get rid of this guy, and this guy. So now you kind of have it's a little more sporadic. Definitely doesn't look like a pattern. We want to avoid that. And if we zoom out, awesome. That just kind of, like I said, is an added element, and we just got to flatten our image. That looks great. I'm really pleased with this image. Let's hit File, Save. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully this helps you with your HDR photography. Subscribe for more tutorials in the future. Take care. Bye.